Man, I miss Hollow Knight's intro. It made it so easy to do introductions and prepping introductory videos. But without it, I can't really do a whole lot, because Silksong's is much more difficult. Because it's actually cinematic, and there's a lot of stuff happening. However, this has nothing to do with what I'm going to be talking about today. You can consider that a very useless introduction, or a very useless information video on Silksong. I have decided to compile 5 of probably the least helpful things in this entire game, even though it's only been out for about a month. I think that these are the top 5 most useless pieces of information in this game. Our first useless piece of information actually has to deal with one of the best abilities in the entire game, dashing. And you might be wondering, well, what's so useless about the dash? It's super helpful, it's super good, and by jump dashing, you actually move slightly faster than actually dashing itself, which seems a little bit backwards, but that's really helpful for speedrunners. And something that's very interesting is the fact that you can dash up walls. But something you might not have known is the fact that you can dash downwards. And for most of us, it's cool. It's like, oh, that's a cool piece of tech. Sure, it might be useless, but it gets even more useless. You see, this is what we call an elevator. It can take you upwards, and it can take you downwards. Now, the reason why I want to bring this up is because if you dash downwards onto an elevator that's going up, nothing happens. You land on the elevator, and you go about your day as normal. But then, what happens if you dash downwards while the elevator is also going down? Well, this is what happens. Hornet is continuously dashing into the ground. Now, the reason why I think this happens is because if you have the elevator go up, the ground is pushing up into Hornet. And the game checks to make sure, is Hornet on the ground? Yes. However, if the ground is constantly being pulled beneath you, such as an elevator going down, that check never actually finishes because the Hornet is not reaching the ground yet, and only finishes at the end of it. It's very, very useless because, as far as I'm aware, it only happens in the far dock elevators, and in no other elevators that we have. Why is this a thing? I don't know. But it's pretty useless because you can only do it here, on these elevators. So why is this even a thing? I'm not sure. But it is a useless piece of information that I have found that I thought was probably the funniest one. But there is still more to come. You know, there's a lot of cool stuff in Silksong. In fact, some of the coolest things can be found in this house alone. But something that's even cooler are all of the tools that Hornet can use. Now, granted, not all of these are as useful as you might think, but some of these are significantly more fun and, provide a lot of cool interactions and combinations. However, there's always been one that stuck out to me as very useless, and it would be the spider strings. The spider strings, sophisticated weaver device, resonates with music played to amplify and enhance a performance. This expands and strengthens the effects of the needle-in. Now, you might think, oh, that's pretty cool, and I guess that might be helpful if you want enemies to stop attacking you. But there is one piece of information about this that is truly, truly just useless. And it's the fact that when you play the needle-in with this charm attached, the camera zooms out. And you'll notice once I stop playing, the camera zooms back in. Now, this is some very, very useless piece of information, but I only put this one here, and I want to specify this now. The needle-in is very important for lore usages, because, as you can see, by playing it, the void tendrils actually freak out, and that might be very important lore-wise. So the only piece of useless thing that I want to point out is the fact that it actually zooms the camera out. Other than that, this charm, or this tool, I'm still calling them charms, kinda pointless. Let's head back to Deep Docks for a second, because this is where I noticed my next piece of useless information. And that's the fact that, did you know that ledges actually have an automatic drop-off? And no, I don't mean that you'll automatically fall off the ledge. That's not the case. But there's an automatic limit to how far you can walk off a ledge. And you'll notice I'm pushing that limit right now. If I walk very, very closely to this edge, you'll notice that Hornet is kind of being pushed back by something. There is a ledge limit. And this is very, very annoying because a lot of times, especially in this little segment right here, I want to dash straight down, like you saw me fall straight down. Like this. But it is very difficult to do if you're trying to do it quickly. Well, I guess I just did it then, you know, I am pretty good at this game. But you'll notice a lot of times, if you want to dash downwards, you might end up hitting one of these ledge limits and getting pushed back onto the ledge itself, as you can see right there. And if you mistime it, or you do it too early, you'll just dash into the wall. And so you'll notice that there is that tiny, tiny little moment in which, you know, you actually like move back ever so slightly. That is something that's very annoying. But it is pretty satisfying once you get it. A little bit of a useless piece of information. Granted, it's not super helpful. It is somewhat helpful, like, let's say you're approaching an edge and you just need to stop. Then the ledge limit will stop you. It is not super useless. However, for a lot of people, they won't even notice this or even care that it exists in the first place. But this is something that I just noticed on my own. It wasn't even something that I had to, like, look at. I think we all know that the Bellbeast is the best of mothers. And something that's very interesting, clearly, you should recognize this is where the Bellbeast is, and this is where, you know, they spawn. Also, what the heck did I just hit? I have no clue what the heck that was. Mid-recording, I have no idea what that was. What? You heard that, right? I was supposed to be recording for a different useless piece of information, but what did I hit? Hold on. Wait, did I just discover a new useless piece of information mid-recording? Okay, I've saved quit. This is where the Bellbeast should be. And if you're in Act 3, this is also where the Bellbeast children should be. Huh. So, apparently, the Bellbeast children hitboxes are still here. Hold on, I have a theory, Give me a second. Okay, so I have a theory. Clearly, this right here is one of the Bellbeast children, and this one right here is the other one. That's one. That's the other. Okay, here's my theory. I use this bell vein last, which means most likely wherever you most recently used a bell vein, the children hitboxes are still there for some reason. But I want to go physically check on the other ones before hitting these ones to see if they're there as well. I wonder if they're preloaded. So I'm gonna check. So indulge me for the next minute and a half. Okay, I have traveled all the way to the slab from the Bellbeast in, well, I guess the Bellbeast vein, from where I last used it. And the big question is, okay, I have traveled all the way to the slab to see whether or not the Bellbeast children are actually there. So, I did not hit them in the previous location. I simply want to see if they're still here. So, theoretically, this is where one of them should be, and this is where the other one should be. They're still there! Wait, I want to try another one. Indulge me for another 2 minutes. Okay, I'm all the way at the blasted steps now. I'm so curious. Are the Bellbeast children also spawned in this location? So there should be one here, and there should be one here. Oh my gosh, they're here! And you can even hear the sound effects very clearly. Wait, that means then at every single bell vein, At every single Bellway, all of the Bell children are spawned. They're hitbox at the very least. Because I didn't call them over, clearly. I ran from here. From this spot. I ran all the way over here to find out that they're there as well. And then I ran all the way over here to find out they're also here. I just found a new useless piece of information mid-recording. Wow, that's awesome. But the real useless information that I wanted to introduce to you guys was that even though, yes, now we know that the Bellbeast children are here, the Bellbeast herself is not actually here. But if you were to call her, okay, that did not go as planned. Her children are not here. But the main goal. Let me save quit. Let me show you what actually is supposed to happen. Essentially. Huh? Wait. Does it not work? Does it only work in Act 1 or Act 2? Is it Act 1 and 2 exclusive? Does it not work in Act 3? Huh. Let's test that out. Okay, this is a different save file that's in Act 2. Clearly, the Bellbeast is not here. And clearly, the Bellbeast children are not here because, well, they don't exist yet. And obviously, you know, the Bellbeast is not here. But if I call the Bellbeast, what exactly am I going off of? It's weird because apparently in Act 1 and 2, if you call the Bellbeast when she's not there already, the hitbox will be generated before the Bellbeast actually begins. Yes, I know, you're very excited about it, I'm sure. But the other thing is that in Act 3, the Bellbeast children hitboxes will spawn at all locations. I know, you're excited, calm down. But the hitbox for when you call the Bellbeast will not be there. Crazy, isn't it? Yes, I know. Calm down. But that's so weird to me. Anyways, that's the little kind of second to last piece of useless information I have for you. Oh, you're not excited about that, huh? Okay, there we go. Hey, look, it's that other piece of useless information I made from Hollow Knight. Except this time, it's actually not useless because it actually deals damage. But that's not the useless piece of information that I want to bring up today. The other piece of useless information that I want to bring up actually has to deal with a hidden character found in the Underworks. And his name is Loam. This is Loam. And he is forced, quote-unquote, to run the entirety of the Underworks on his own. Now, there's a lot of lore implications about this, and something that I find very interesting is that he looks like he's made of void. I am no lore hunter, I want to make that clear. Anyone who has good theories on Loam, I would love to hear it. Now, something that's very interesting about Loam is this little bit right here. This is a treadmill, and you can actually hop on it, and you can run the Underworks alongside with Loam. Now, there is something very interesting about this, and it's the simple fact that when you're running on this, or even walking on it, you'll notice right above Hornet, there's a little gauge that is increasing. And once you reach the end, a single rosary. Just one. Loam, you have all of my pity. I feel so bad for you. But that got me thinking. You know, obviously, this is very useless. Why would you spend your entire time grinding this thing out just to get one rosary? And so that got me thinking, what is the fastest you can actually get this? And so I compiled some of the faster movement objects, such as the Flea Brew, the Silk Speed Anklets, and I want to figure out how fast can you really do this. So, let's find out. Dang. That took way longer than I expected. Loam, I'm so sorry. But more on Loam. His story and his thoughts are very, very tragic. If you play the needle in, you'll actually hear his inner thoughts, saying things like, "For your light, harder, longer. See me work. For your light." It's clear that he is trying to impress something, or at the very least, he's trying to earn the validation of something else. And he's running the underworks for the sake of this. The unfortunate and saddest part about all of this is that in Act 3, Loam is dead. However, you see that little string right here that's connected to Loam? That is actually very important because that string indicates that there is lore here. And if I were to play the needle in here, we actually get to hear Loam's thoughts after the death. Run. Free. Toil. No more. And really, what he's saying here is that he no longer has to run. He no longer has to toil. He is free. His whole life he has been running. And now after death, he feels that he is finally free from this task. It's so sad. And yet all we can do to interact with him is to run on the treadmill for 1 rosary. It's so sad, but it's such a useless piece of information too. And that brings us actually to our last useless piece of information. Something that you may not have realized that I've secretly been doing this entire video. That simple fact is, did you know that when Hornet sits on her bench, or any bench for that matter, she actually has 2 different sitting animations. One where she's facing the right, and one where she's facing the left. Here are both of them side by side, just so you can take a quick look at it. But it's very strange why they decided to do this. But it's also very interesting that they actually decided to do this because they acknowledge if you're approaching the bench from the left, you're going to continue going that direction, and Hornet actually acknowledges it as well. And vice versa if you're going the other direction. This is clearly not the same as Hollow Knight. No matter what bench you sit on in Hollow Knight, you will always sit down in the exact same way. But Hornet disagrees. And I have been doing that sneakily throughout this entire video. But that's all of the useless pieces of information that I found. Granted, I'm sure there's a lot more. But as far as I'm aware, these are probably the most useless pieces of information in this entire game. Unlike a certain someone. I'm kidding, we love Sherma. Sherma's our boy. But hey, maybe if you did like this, cool. You are free to subscribe if you'd like. I don't really care much. I don't make money anyways, so up to you. But I hope that these pieces of information have been truly useless to you. And with that being said, I hope you have a good rest of your day or night, depending on your availability, of course. I'll see you in the next video, I guess, whenever that might be. Bye!